Week 14, everyone, of the NFL season with Greg Roth and David Eby. This is yours truly, Eric Glazer. Welcome back to the Sharp Squares podcast. Last week, our Sharps in aggregate were 55.8%, a stellar week. Metal games were 3-1. Our pick five picks 3-2, 0-1 for the EB pick. Noted 3-2-1. We were 2-1, earning 3 of 6 total points. We have a bunch of metal games. We've got 3 games. We've handicap highlights. We've got a lot of trends, and we're going to start it all right now with a segment I like calling Gold, Silver, Bronze. And to provide you with that valuable information, let me introduce you to everyone's favorite fellow degenerate, the Greg Roth.
Eric, thank you so much. What a pleasure to join you today and the ambassador. We have 5 metal games. 5 metal games.
Let's
one
go.
of them is gold. None of them are silver. 4 of them are bronze. And I am thrilled to report. Thrilled. None of the picks. Usually I'm giving you the picks. Today I'm going to give you what we didn't pick first. None of the picks are the Titans, Panthers, they did cover last week, the Panthers, I think.
Colts.
Or the Colts. None of these 5 metal games are those teams. So, who's the gold game? The top rated game, the pick. It's the Minnesota Vikings. They're -4.5, welcoming the Atlanta Falcons to Minnesota. Adam Chernoff, the Favorites podcast, Cleve TA, Fabian Summer, and Simon Hunter. They all picked Minnesota. Mike Lombardi did pick the Falcons. No silver games and 4 bronze games. The top-rated bronze game, the picks the Dallas Cowboys. They're a home dog, +5.5, welcoming the Cincinnati Bengals. Steve Fezzik, RJ Bell, Kelly Stewart, Ross Tucker, the Covers podcast all picked Dallas. Mackenzie Rivers took the Bengals. The second bronze game, another home dog. The picks, the LA Rams. They're +3.5 in LA to take on the Buffalo Bills. Marco D'Angelo, Stuckey, Gil Alexander, and the Covers podcast all picked the Rams. Nobody picked Buffalo. The third bronze game, the picks, the Los Angeles Raiders, +6.5. They're traveling to Tampa Bay to take on the Buccaneers. Chris Raybon and Mike Lombardi picked the Raiders. Nobody picked Tampa. The last metal game, bronze, the picks the Arizona Cardinals. They're -2.5 at home to take on the Seattle Seahawks. Steve Fezzik, Scott Seidenberg, and Gil Alexander all picked Arizona. So our picks, it's easy. We have 5 metal games. Vikings are gold. Cowboys, Rams, Raiders, and Cardinals are bronze. The DraftKings lines, Vikings -4.5, Cowboys +5.5, Rams +3.5, Raiders +6.5, Cardinals -2.5. 3-2-1, a little bit of a wrinkle. The Chiefs, who we have not talked about yet, they become our top-rated game in 3-2-1. Why? We're -3.5 in that pool. We were -4.5 in DraftKings. Let me set that game up for you. The Chiefs are at home, -3.5, hosting the LA Chargers. Stuckey, Rob Pizzola, Fabian Summer, Adam Chernoff, the Favorites podcast, Cleve TA, and Marco D'Angelo all picked Kansas City. There was a lot of dissent on the Chargers. Steve Fezzik, RJ Bell, Kelly Stewart, David Bierman, and Mike Renner all picked the Chargers.
Can I comment on that, Greg? So the way that works is when the line was different in pick 5, the game looked like it was a 0 based upon everyone, how we weight all those sharps, and they're all weighted differently. Just the way it played out and who was on the Chiefs when that line moved, and 3.5 to 4.5 isn't like through a critical number, of course, but it's enough to give all those guys that were on the Chiefs enough additional weight that pushed that game well into gold status, because I would say 2/3 of our sharps are on that game, right? So it's one of our most picked games. So it's an unusual for a line that only goes from 3.5 to 4.5 to have that big of a change, but that's why it is.
Similarly, the Rams who are plus 3.5 in DraftKings, also a bronze game, our third highest rated games in DraftKings, moves up to the 2-point game because we're getting 4.5 points in 3-2-1. The Vikings, which was our gold game, stays in the top 3 in 3-2-1 as the 1-point game at minus 4.5. So Chiefs 3, Rams 2, Vikings 1.
If that is all you were looking for, you are now all dismissed. A lot of good trend data for you. First, from Bet Labs. In the last 2 years, Jalen Hurts as a favorite of 7 or more, 0-5 against the spread. Grab the Panthers, folks, 12.5. From the Action Network, since week 4 of this season, the Jets are not only 1-8 straight up, they're also 1-8 against the number. That is the worst ATS mark of any team in the NFL. Play it at your own risk. Jets plus 6.5 at Miami. This one's really interesting. Since 2020, Kirk Cousins is last out of 92 quarterbacks ATS when playing indoors. Last of 92 quarterbacks playing indoors. Last 5 seasons, he is 16-30 ATS when playing indoors, including 7-16 over the last 3 seasons. The Falcons are plus 4.5 at Minnesota.
Well, Eric, if you think that's interesting, listen to this. Tua Tagovailoa has only faced the Jets 4 times in his career. Can you believe it? 4 times. And he's 4-0 straight up. He is 11-0 straight up versus the Jets and Patriots, and 1-8 straight up versus the Bills. Tua's closed as a favorite of 6 or more points 16 times. Miami is 15-1 straight up and 12-4 ATS in those games. Jets plus 6.5 at Miami is the
Pounding Miami.
Pounding. The Giants are on a 7-game against the spread losing streak entering this home game against the Saints, and they are a 4.5-point underdog.
Those were all from the Action Network, from Bet On It and Ralph Michaels. Here are 4 reasons to take the Steelers this weekend. First, since 2017, if the team is playing back-to-back games versus a division foe, follow us here. They are playing their back-to-back games versus a division rival and now are a home favorite, and they won last week as an away dog. So those 3 things, they are 15-1 against the number. That's a play on Pittsburgh. Also, if the Steelers lost the first game versus a division foe, they are 16-8 ATS in that second game.
And when Cleveland beats a division team in the first game of the annual series, they are 6-18. That's 25% ATS in the second matchup. You might recall they beat Pittsburgh just a couple of weeks ago, and now they're playing again on Sunday. Since 2015, 34 teams that have put up 500 or more yards and lost the game. In their next game, those teams are 11-23. That's 32.4% against the spread. Fade Cleveland.
That's all from Bet On It and Ralph Michaels.
First game for the handicapping highlights, the gold game. The Vikings are the pick, minus 5.5. Handicapping synopsis, they're hosting the Falcons. Handicapping synopsis, Kirk Cousins makes his first trip back to Minnesota since being traded to the Falcons last offseason. The stout Minnesota defense versus a familiar foe. Add in the possibility Cousins is playing through an injury, and the 5.5-point line is just too short. From Adam Chernoff, RAS, thinks Kirk Cousins is injured, lost a ton of velocity on his throws, very sluggish in the pocket, hesitating to plant and make throws. You know, when we were kids, they would said Eric was sluggish in the pocket. Fabian Summer from Forward Progress thinks the same thing. Maybe Cousins is hurt. Maybe his Achilles is not healed fully. He also thinks Cousins doesn't seem to plant fully. The guys from the Favorites podcast, namely Chad Millman and Simon Hunter, point out that Cousins struggles with pressure, and the Vikings are excellent at creating pressure. Also, they note that Cousins has been a disaster since the bye week, 0 TDs and 6 picks. That's certainly a disaster. Timestamps, RAS, 6 minutes, 48 seconds. Forward Progress, 3 minutes and 5 seconds. The Favorites podcast, 28 minutes, 30 seconds.
Next up is the Bengals at the Cowboys. The pick is the Cowboys plus 5.5 points. The synopsis: the Bengals are coming off a playoff eliminating loss to their division rival Pittsburgh Steelers, while the Cowboys are coming off a mini bye, riding a 2-game winning streak. Steve Fezzik from the Dream Preview says that with their loss to Pittsburgh last week, the Bengals are now officially donezo. By contrast, you could argue that while Dallas is also donezo, at least they have momentum as they've been playing well and are on a small winning streak. RJ Bell, also from the Dream Preview, says if the Dream Preview's proprietary fourth quarter win share statistic is correct, and Cincinnati is only 2 wins better as a team than Dallas, then this line would be 2.5 to 3.5. And he's getting 5.5 points, so he's getting great value with Dallas. Ross Tucker from Even Money points out that the Cowboys have won 2 in a row and have extra rest. Thanks, Ross. We already pointed that out. And Mackenzie Rivers says that according to non-turnover line of scrimmage EPA, which he says is the most predictive single type of play going forward, the Bengals are at plus 0.4 per game, and the Cowboys are minus 8.2 per game. This says that Cincinnati is effectively 8.5 points better than Dallas using this metrics from a power rating perspective. So even with home field advantage, Cincinnati is the right side here. Timestamps: Dream Preview, 54 minutes, 18 seconds. Even Money, 25-23. And Wager Talk, 36-40.
Third and final game we're going to highlight today: Bills at the Rams. We're on the Rams plus 3.5. Synopsis: questionable run defense may pose some problems for the AFC East divisional champions Buffalo Bills as they travel across the country to face a desperate Rams team with a potent running attack. Highlights: Buffalo is plus 17 turnover margin this season. There's some potential here for some regression. Compliments of Stuckey at the Action Network. Gil Alexander from Bet On It says that the run defense for Buffalo allows a whopping 4.9 yards per play, and the Rams match up well against this defense. Buffalo will let teams run, and they have been doing this for years. Marco D'Angelo from Bet On It says this is a potential look-ahead spot for the Bills, who played the Detroit Lions the following week. Timestamps: Action Network, 13 minutes, 38 seconds. Beating the Book, 31 minutes even. Bet On It, 16 minutes, 15 seconds. All right, folks, there you have it. Our sharps are getting hot. We're getting hot. And you could bet your ass we're going to have a winning week next week. I'm just going to tell my nephew not to tell your mother I used that word during the show. Reminder to everyone, none of us are sharp. But this is your Sharp Squares podcast.
Good luck out there.